Okay, live on Instagram, live on Facebook. Okay, so I wanted to come on and talk about this subject because it's something that I would hear in college all the time, and that was that you were supposed to pray without ceasing. Well, that is good and well if you can sit in your room and pray for 12 hours a day, but I know myself, I couldn't. So something I wanted to share were just some practical things when it comes to praying that we can implement no matter what kind of schedule that we have. Hi guys, I would love to say all your names, but I am very, very blind and I cannot see the screen. So I was reading in Exodus 11 and something that jumped out at me. So this is gonna tie in, but something that jumped out to me is when Moses is talking to Pharaoh and saying, let my people go, the Bible clearly shows that Pharaoh's heart was hardened over and over and over again. Draw me a 1 if you know the story. Draw me a 2 if you don't. If you don't, it's totally fine. But his heart was hardened. And the Bible says that in order to get him to obey, God had to end up killing his firstborn son. So that speaks to me that I would much rather obey God because I love him and because I want to please him than because he has to break me in order to get me to obey. Does that make sense? Like, I don't know anyone that has gone through a season of having to be broken in order to follow God that would go back and say, hey, if I had to do the same thing all over again, that's exactly what I would do. So that brings me in to prayer, because one way to make sure that your heart is not hardened is to be daily praying with him. If we're daily praying and we're daily in the Word, it's going to be a lot harder for us to turn our heart hard toward him. So the first thing is, again, daily praying, which means I think as Christians, a lot of people that I've talked to, it's easy to pray when things are hard. It's easy to pray when we're having money problems. It's easy to pray when we are dealing with a child that's not obeying in like a season of disobedience. It's easy to pray when we're in a season where our marriage is not feeling like it's doing very well. And then when things get really good, it's easy to stop praying. And we kind of create that cycle. Things are hard, we pray. Things are good, we don't pray. And that's something that obviously you can only be honest with yourself. But I can tell you for sure, I have gone through those seasons where I haven't prayed and I have not been in my Bible because things were going well. Now, I can tell you that's not me anymore, but that's because I've had to learn the lesson over and over and over again. So it's something I wanted to share. Maybe you won't have to learn the lesson over and over again. Maybe you'll be smarter than I am. So pray when it's good, not just when it's bad. Now, just on the practical side, what that looks like for me, one of the things it looks like, is I do get up and I make sure I do my journaling and my devotions first thing in the morning. And I will say, I know that I am very privileged with this. I can spend 60 to 90 minutes praying and reading my Bible and journaling, and that's not everyone's schedule. But even if you have 15 minutes, I kind of liken it to a parent. And this is an illustration that was used with us in college. They said, if you only had 15 minutes to call your mom and chat with her, either between class or before you go to work or whatever, would she rather you call and spend 15 minutes on the phone with her or not call at all because you didn't have quote unquote enough time? And that's the same thing with God. God would rather us come and spend 15 minutes with him than not come to him at all because we don't have an entire hour. So one is just praying daily, whatever that looks like, however that fits in your schedule. Number 2 is praying and relying on him for all the small things. And this is something that is very, very hard if you are middle class America or higher, I would say. Let me make sure I'm getting all my notes here. Because this is something that I will tell you I definitely failed at as a parent. So those of y'all that know a little bit of my backstory, as a kid, there were lots of times where we didn't have money and we didn't have food and we didn't have, our water got shut off, our electric got shut off. However, because my mom wasn't really a praying mom, like we weren't a church family, I never saw that. I never saw, praying for those things. We did go to church. We were a bus family. If you know what that is, you know what that is. So our church would pay bills and stuff for us, and we just knew that they were going to do it. There was no need to really pray and ask God to do it. There was always welfare or a food line or something that would, fix whatever the issue was. Now, as an adult, I worked my butt off. I made sure that I did do well with my money. I made sure that I was working as much as I possibly could. And I never found myself where I did not have food on the table or did not have, a place to live or whatever. So I got very complacent with not having to pray for those things. And then my husband and I got married. Now, again, those of y'all that know our story, we definitely, I wouldn't even say we were middle class at that point. I would say we were probably lower class, but our bills were paid. There was just no extra money. So when we started doing the social marketing thing and we got a little extra money, again, there was no need to pray for the extra stuff because I could fix it. I could go out and make the extra money. If I want an extra $300, I know a certain amount of minutes I need to spend on Facebook and Instagram, and I can make $300. Not that big of a deal. Now, the disservice I did to my daughter was she has grown up pretty much her whole life that she can remember in a upper middle class home. So if she needs a new pair of shoes, we run and buy a new pair of shoes. If she says, hey, Mom, I'm going on... We shouldn't go anywhere. She's second grade. Oh, hey, Mom, Master Club says that we need to bring in XYZ on Wednesday. We go to the store and we buy XYZ. I never gave her the chance to pray for that item because I was teaching her that she could rely on me. She didn't need to rely on God. And I wasn't teaching her that in so many words, but subconsciously, that's exactly what I was teaching her. So now we've come to a place, and I had a Sunday school teacher that he talked about this probably a year ago. And it hit me so hard when he talked about how we aren't giving our kids the chance to pray and see God answer prayer because we're answering it before they can pray for it. And so even though, yes, we may have the money to go buy the new pair of shoes, you may have the money to go buy your kid that sweatshirt that they want, you may have the money to go buy the kid the new game that they want, it's better to let them pray for it for a while, and maybe it'll even surprise you, because it has surprised me at times, and it's humbled me at times. I'm not a person that likes when people give me things. Again, probably because how I grew up. I want to be able to do it myself. Sometimes when you pray for something, the money can be in your bank account, but God will use somebody else to fill that blessing and fill that need instead. And that has happened more times than once when I let my daughter and helped her pray for something when I could go out and buy it. And not only is she blessed, but I'm blessed and I'm humbled because God is showing up real life and showing me that he doesn't only come through when we can't come through for ourselves. He comes through anytime we allow him to come through. So number 1 is praying daily. Number 2 is praying for things before we feel the need ourselves. I don't have an exact title for that, but that's something that, again, just really hit me hard. And then number 3 is praying with gratitude for the things that we take for granted. And one of those, and I just heard this past Sunday, again, with a different Sunday school teacher, he talked about praying before your food. And I'll be honest, I don't like praying before my food. I feel like it's just a ritual that people go through, and it just seems kind of dumb to me, I'm not going to lie. Now, when he explained it, no longer does it seem dumb. Now, again, remember, my background, absolutely times where we didn't have food on the table, but we knew someone was going to come through. Like, I was never worried about it. I just knew, okay, push comes to shove, Mom will go stand in the food line. Not a big deal. Was it embarrassing at times? Yeah. Did we know we were going to eat? Yeah. So this guy was talking about how at one point he had 3 little boys. His wife was a stay-at-home mom, so there was no other income. And he got laid off of his job unexpectedly. And there were times that he didn't know where the next meal was going to come from. And he prayed. And so now that he has a good job again, this was a few years ago, I believe, he prays and thanks God for the food because he remembers what it was like to not have it. He remembers what it was like to pray and ask God for the food. So now that God consistently puts the food on the table, he does not miss a beat when it comes to thanking him. And that hit me differently. I was like, okay, I'm going to start praying for the things that I normally take for granted. I'm going to thank God when I wake up on time in the morning. I'm going to thank God that I wake up period in the morning because that's not a guarantee. I'm going to thank God that I have clean water to do my dishes with. I'm going to thank God that I have enough money in my bank account to buy groceries this week. Because again, that's not a guarantee for any of us. I am going to thank God every time I sit down and have a meal because it's not a guarantee for any of us. So pray daily. Good time, bad time, doesn't matter. Pray consistently. Pray before you feel the need. pray that God will fill it. Let him work. Because when you see him work, it's just, I don't know, it's really cool. I don't know how to describe it. It's just really cool to actually see him fill a need, even if you could fill it yourself. And then 3 is pray with gratitude for the things we take for granted. And the last thing I want to leave you with, and then I do have a freebie, I forgot to mention that, but that's okay. The last thing I want to leave you with is this pray without ceasing part. So that literally means like pray all the time. That doesn't mean you lock yourself in a closet and pray. Hold on. Gloria, are you okay? Yeah. Okay. She's coughing. I don't know what she's doing. That doesn't mean you lock yourself in a closet for 12 hours a day and ignore all your responsibilities. But everything we can be asking for wisdom on and asking for guidance and thanking God. It takes 2 seconds. Guys, when I go to the gym and I get a parking spot that I like, I thank him for it. If I'm going to the store to grab something specific, I'll pray that not only is it there right now, we live in Indiana and chicken is like scarce. So every time I go on to order groceries, I ask God to let there be some freaking chicken breast. And you know what? More often than not, he's been coming through and I can log on 5 minutes after I put my order in and it's already out. So I know it's God's timing at that point. I will pray and ask God just for any little thing, and I'll thank him for any little thing. So the pray without ceasing just kind of comes with acknowledging him and seeing him there consistently, because when you look for him, you'll see him. It's like any, I don't know what you call it, but anything, like they say if you buy a blue car and you've never seen that model, then all of a sudden you see all of those on the road all the time. That's the same thing with God. If you look for him, you'll see him. The fact is we just don't realize that he's even there. We get so used to relying on other things that aren't him that we don't even see his hand anymore, which is really sad if you think about it. So the last thing I want to leave you with, if you don't know how to pray, or if you're like, well, I'd like to pray, I don't even know what that looks like, or maybe you don't know how to teach your kids how to pray, I have a freebie for you. It's the 5-finger prayer system. It's how I taught my daughter how to pray when she was 3. It's something that I actually taught back when I was teaching grade school, and every little kid loved this system. But then, as I turned into a teacher in the online space, and I was working with adults and not little kids, I was surprised how many adults would come to me and how many moms would come to me and say, hey, I'm new to this Christian life. I was never really taught how to pray. I don't really, I sit there, I don't really know what to do. Or I sit there and my mind wanders. Hello, that was me. I didn't learn how to pray until I was, in my 20s and already had a baby. So, and my mind would wander all the time, like squirrel, squirrel, squirrel. So anyways, if you would like the freebie, just drop down in the comments, drop down prayer, and I will absolutely send you the freebie. No strings attached. It's just something that I definitely want to give back. And maybe it'll be a blessing to you like it's been a blessing to me and so many other moms and so many other kids. So until my next video, I will talk to you guys later.